Well, hello, everyone. I'm Deborah Prinzing. Welcome back to the Slow Flowers Show. I'm so thrilled today to welcome Diana Roy from Resendiz Brothers Protea Growers. Hello, Diana.
Hi, Deborah. How are you?
I'm great. It's so good to see you. I was reminiscing before we started recording that you and Mel Resendiz were guests on the podcast on our 20th episode in 2013. I'm sorry I let so much time go by before I invited you back. That's amazing.
It is a long time. Great to see you.
Yeah. And it's because I got to know you in the early days of Slow Flowers because of the California Cut Flower Commission. And I got to tag along on some trips to Washington, D.C. with you. And you were just always so welcoming and including me. So I'm glad that we can talk about Protea, which is that how you pronounce it? I know that some people say Protea. What's your preferred pronunciation?
Well, I say Protea, but it is just as common to say Protea as well. I think it depends on what part of the world you're located in and how you say it. But either way, we understand the word.
Exactly, right? Well, so the news is that the International Protea Conference is coming to the San Diego area, to Southern California. And Diana and Mel Resendiz, who's the president of the International Protea Association. By the way, Diana, you just told me you're the vice president. You're kind of the local host of this worldwide conference, right?
Yes. Typically, the local association gets involved, which in our case would be the California Protea Association. But since COVID, they've kind of had a little difficulties getting back together. So Mel and I basically took this on ourselves.
Wow. And what is the association, and like what countries does it represent? Where are, other than San Diego, Southern California, where else are Protea flourishing on the globe?
Well, obviously South Africa and Australia, Azores, Portugal, Spain, Italy, New Zealand, Peru, Brazil, Colombia, Israel, and there's probably a few more I can say here. Canary Islands as well.
Did you mention Hawaii as well?
No, I left that out because I think of it as kind of the United States. But yes, we do consider ourselves California and Hawaii because we are probably the two areas in the United States where we're able to grow these plants.
So kind of together, you're the U.S. region.
Yeah.
Wow. So all folks from all these venues, all these growing zones will come to San Diego area at the end of March for this conference. You said you had like over 100 people registered.
That's correct. It'll probably be close to 125 on the peak days. As far as countries, I have people from 9 countries coming at this point.
Wow. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. It's great. And, the photos that I've fallen in love with are, and also been able to visit in person, are the rolling hills of Temecula area, where Resendiz Brothers is just got gorgeous fields filled with Protea and other, South African plants. Can people come and tour your farm when they're here? I'm sure you're doing farm tours.
We are. We have 2 sets of days where we're doing tours. So the conference actually is 4 days, plus we have an opening dinner and then an optional tour. But our tours primarily consist of, on Monday, we visit Resendiz Brothers, and then we go to Kindle Farms and also Rainbow Protea. So it was kind of my hopes that we would focus on Rainbow because I basically consider this the Protea capital of at least the United States. I'm not including Hawaii. So I didn't really want to take them far away from this area. So I basically chose the Temecula Creek Inn, which is maybe about a 5-minute drive from here, as the venue for the conference so that we could keep everybody here in this area and appreciating what happens right here in Rainbow. So on Monday we go to, as I said, we visit here. We go over to Kindle Farms, and then from there we go to Rainbow Protea, where we'll visit their farm and have lunch. And then that afternoon we'll visit one of Mel's farms up in the hills as well. And then we will have dinner. And we're still in the process, and a lot of it's going to depend on whether or not we do a field vase kind of dinner out in the field somewhere, or we bring it back down here. And I'm really hoping the weather will allow us to do a field to vase dinner.
Oh, I mean, the romantic vibe of being in those fields. I hope it works out for you too. Who are the people who come to this? Are they all growers, or are there designers who participate? Who? Because you've gone to many of these, right?
I've been to 3. I was once in Perth in Australia, and then twice in South Africa. Basically, the group of people that come, they're either researchers, scientists, educators, farmers. There are also individuals from like ball horticulture, so people who are maybe involved in horticulture. We do have some designers that are coming. They'll also be here, a lot of them, for the workshop that we're hosting prior, and then they'll attend part of the conference. And then you have quite a few people who are maybe retired, but they just love that networking opportunity and that group of people. So they've come. And I think I have some enthusiasts, just people who love Proteas and want to learn more about them.
Well, that's how you started, right, Diana? You were growing Protea in your garden, isn't that right?
Yeah, I came out of the hotel industry, and I found myself spending a lot of time staring at all the lovely arrangements that would come in for banquets and things like that. And so I was kind of always a flower person. And at one point, my boss had left and started her own farm. And so I would go spend some time with her on the weekends at her farm. And I realized that's really where my passion was. So I ended up buying about 7 acres up above Temecula in an area called Duluth. And I started growing Proteas there. And that's when I met Mel. And so at some point when Mel kind of left Zorro because of its closing down, I basically agreed to come in and help him with his office if he'd help me with my farm. So I still have my farm at home, but I think I spend more time here in the office right now.
Oh my gosh, what a collaboration. That's amazing. Well, let's just talk about some of the highlights, because you mentioned the farm tours. Then I wanted to put the website for the conference just up on the screen so people can see it. I love that there's going to be some design focus, but let's just start here. Oh my gosh, like nothing is more gorgeous than seeing that massive cluster of Protea in the foreground and the fields in the background. So it's March 30th to April 4th in Temecula.
Well, actually, Temecula is Riverside County, so part of the activities will take place in San Diego County, which is obviously the farm tours here, and then Temecula is Riverside County. The other thing too I didn't mention is we also do tours on Thursday to Altman plants. Altman's has quite a facility in an area called Paris, which is just about, I would say, 20 minutes north of Temecula, where they're producing a lot of plants for the landscape industry, Protea plants in particular. They do a lot of other types of plants, but this particular facility focuses on Proteas. So we'll visit that. And then from there, we'll be venturing out to Vista, where we'll be visiting a bouquet making facility to see how this particular facility uses Protea in their mass market bouquets.
Oh, that's great. So something for everyone, just to say, from the landscape application to the mass market mixed grocery store bouquet, it's sort of nice showing that diversity. And I have on the screen here the floral workshop and farm tour with Renee Van Rems. So that is something that's drawing some of the florists then. Is that what you were mentioning?
Yeah, I have actually 2 in particular that are coming from Hawaii. One who's does quite a bit of wedding work in Hawaii, and then another who's has a florist in Maui. And so they've worked with Renee quite a bit in the past. And so we were really fortunate to have them sign up. There are 17 students who've signed up, a wide range, not only designers, but some of the attendees of the workshop signed up, and or not the workshop, the conference.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a wide range of students.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll come in on Friday. Actually, they're going to meet at the hotel on Friday morning prior to coming over here where they'll be doing their workshop. And they'll get a kind of a layout of the hotel, see the areas they're going to be decorating, because they're not only going to be decorating the social events, the meals, the banquets, they're also going to go in and do some flowers in the restaurant, the lobby, really decorate the hotel so that no matter where the guests are, they're going to see Proteas.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, that makes so much sense. So the workshop, the design workshop is before the actual kickoff of the conference.
Mhm.
So when people arrive, the hotel's going to be just flourishing with beautiful blooms. I love that.
Yeah. Yes.
And also for the students to get the opportunity to design on a large scale, like an installation type of thing, will be awesome.
Right. So they're going to come in and he's going to give them some techniques and tell them basically what they're going to be creating, because there's quite a few events they're designing for. I mean, we have our opening dinner on Sunday night, which is out in an area they call the Meadows. So that'll be a real farm to table type event. They're going to be using wooden tables and chairs, and it'll be outside, almost on the golf course. Temecula Creek Inn is actually on a big, huge golf course. So
oh, wow.
Surrounded. But literally, you've got to create stuff that's going to move throughout the whole conference so that no matter where they're at or what they're doing, they have flowers to enjoy.
But Diana, this is one of the attributes of the Protea family, is that the blooms do really well for long periods of time, even out of water, right?
Yes.
Wow. So it's kind of demonstrating the best application for the end user, which is the florist or event planner. I can't wait to see the photos. It sounds amazing. Good. Well, that'll be fun. And then you get down to business with the lectures and the conference sessions. And you were saying a lot of the researchers and horticulture scientists will be presenting, but put it into some layman terms or laywoman terms for me. What are some of the what's the buzz in terms of research or breeding or kind of new things that people can maybe expect to see in the next couple of years if they're already believers and users of Protea?
Well, our convener of the conference is Ken Leonard, and he oversees the University of Hawaii and a lot of the new Hawaiian hybrids, the leucospermum and pincushions that we're starting to see being grown everywhere at this point in time. So we'll be getting a lot of information about leucospermum pincushions. I have also some researchers coming from Future Fynbos, which is a organization in South Africa that is pretty much invested in these types of plants. And they'll be doing presentations on Cerutia, or more commonly called or referred to as blushing bride. There are many more varieties than just blushing bride. So they're going to be talking about the new cultivars that are coming online.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. They're also talking about the Arctic ice, which is the big white king protea that has become quite popular for wedding work as well, and some of the varieties that are being produced there as well. Also, there will be some topics around wax flowers. We do have a few people from Australia that are speaking, but one in particular oversees an operation called Helex. And so he's going to be talking about the wax flowers and the baronias that they grow there. Because in Australia, what they kind of consider the wax flowers and the Proteas kind of Australian natives. So we brought a little bit of that into it. So people could learn about those. And a lot of the farmers in this area, and I'm sure in other countries, they not only grow Proteas, but wax flowers and things like that tend to be another item that many farms have.
That makes a lot of sense. And do they bloom at the same time, or do they have different cycles? I know wax flower, I can get it, from Resendiz Brothers, it's more of, is it a winter crop? I feel like.
Well, no. Well, I guess you could think of it as winter. Typically, we start to see waxflower come in December if we're lucky. This year, it's been a little bit late. And then it blooms through spring, maybe into the beginning of June. So I often think of waxflower as a spring crop, as well as leucospermum pincushions. We think of it as spring crop. And often when you look at these conferences, you'll see that they pick this time of year to have the conference, because this is the time of year when you see the most varieties, not only with the waxflowers and the leucospermum, but you're still harvesting a little bit of Proteas. The kings typically come in some sort of volume at this time of year. Plus, we start to see flowering leucodendrons, the ones that have the beautiful cream-colored brackets and bright orange and red cones. We'll see isopogon, sometimes waratas. So this is a time of year, Banksias. So if you want to have a time when you really can put on a display of Proteas, this is the perfect time. I would say by the time everybody gets here in a couple of weeks, we should have a little bit of everything to show.
Oh, it just sounds glorious. I think about the fact that there are so many growing zones around the world. Is it possible that Protea are, people can have them year round if they order from, a grower in a different continent? Or is it just pretty much that sort of December through June window that you're talking about?
No, if you have your connections around the world, you can have Proteas year round. Absolutely.
Well, speaking of connections, I think it would be great if we can talk a little bit about how listeners who are in the floral industry can order from I don't know, their wholesaler or direct from Resendiz Brothers. How do you prefer people to get their hands on your crops? I know I can get them in Seattle through the Seattle Wholesale Growers Market, which is a real advantage for florists here.
Absolutely. Well, just to mention, we do have an online store called theproteastore.com. So we get a lot of orders throughout the country for bouquets and gift boxes and a wide range of things.
I'm going to put that up on the screen because that is the Protea store is also listed on slowflowers.com. So that you created that is that more of a consumer facing platform or?
It is. We would get a lot of calls and emails from people in parts of the country, let's just say Nebraska, for example, where their wholesaler just didn't carry Proteas, but maybe they had been to Hawaii or somewhere where they saw Proteas, or they could be from South Africa and just want to enjoy their native flowers. And we kept getting calls, so we decided if we couldn't establish wholesale contacts in those parts of the country, we could at least get bouquets to these individuals who really wanted them. So that's kind of the reason why we set that up. We also do a Saturday farmers market in Temecula, where a lot of the local people go to buy Proteas. We sell to wholesalers pretty much throughout the country in Canada. And we do some shipping overseas as well, but that's been somewhat limited lately. When I get a florist or somebody who calls and wants to buy Proteas, the first thing I always ask them is where they're located, because if I have a wholesaler in that part of the country, it's always better for them to go through the wholesaler, because most of them have their own trucks and can get the flowers to whatever location they're at. And it saves a little bit of money as far as trying to FedEx things. Plus, obviously, in warmer times of the year, FedEx doesn't necessarily refrigerate things. So if you really want the quality to be top notch, it's really good to have them riding on these trucks that are refrigerated and get them to the wholesale location. But I do find that there are florists in part of the country or events planners who do not have access, and then we do our best to try to work with them.
Okay. And I wanted to talk about that because I don't want to send people your way when you're super busy putting a conference on. So it sounds like there are always the emergencies of people who don't plan ahead or didn't order at the last minute. You're probably you're probably like a fairy godmother solving a lot of wedding drama. But I do like the idea that if you want sort of that highest quality product, if you can get it through your wholesaler, it's going to be in water and be refrigerated. And so it's, it's just a matter of working with the rep to order in the pallet or the cultivar that you want.
Exactly. And we have wholesalers who will tell us to label boxes a certain way so they know when that box arrives there that it goes straight to that particular florist.
That sounds great. Oh my goodness. So, Diana, how much designing are you doing these days? Have you been recruited to do any of the decor with Renee and his team, or are you going to be busy like with the clipboard, making sure that all the meals get served on time, the buses come on time?
I'm probably going to be running around making sure everybody's where they need to be and the guests are taken care of and things. I hope to be an observer off and on during his workshop. And when we meet up at the hotel, I would like to be there so I have a really good understanding of what's taking place. As far as designing, I pretty much do that every week on my own. Most of the arrangements that go out on our social media are things that I have put together on the weekend to display in certain parts of my house. But before they get into their special place, I usually photograph them and I will use them for social media purposes. So obviously a lot of what people are seeing on Instagram or Facebook are things that literally were created that weekend before. And so it really gives people an opportunity to see what's being harvested, but also get a little bit of an idea on how you can incorporate it into designs. At this time of year, there's so many proteas and so much around us that we can use that I literally can stick with what's being produced here or on this farm or at home. But in times like during the summer, when sometimes the proteas are transitioning a little bit and we don't have a lot, that's when I hit the farmer's market and I'll buy maybe, I don't know, Lysianthus or another type of flower, everlastings or something. And I think it's really important because for a long time, I think people thought when you had proteas, you should only mix them with other proteas or those types of flowers. And so I've really made it a point to show people that truly you can take proteas and mix them with other types of flowers, and they mix and match beautifully.
I'm so glad you brought that up. That's such an important just idea for people to consider in terms of integrating these South African flowers with maybe temperate plants or tender perennials or annuals. What a gorgeous look. And I have to compliment you on your feed. Your Instagram is beautiful. We often repost images that we love on the Slow Flowers feed. Mm-hmm. And I know you said you'd share some with me that we can put in our show notes. So I guess that's just great tip, Diana. I didn't realize that you were posting hyper seasonally. Like whatever we see on the Resendiz feed is probably just harvested within a few days. Mm-hmm. So if you really, and actually, if you want to plan, scroll back into your feed and see what was posted like April of 2024. You'll see that it's probably going to be available in April 2025.
And we'll get people who will call, and we've had people ask if we do wedding flowers or designs for special events and stuff. And if it's something we're considering doing, or maybe not even, but somebody's trying to get an idea of what they can use in their special event at a particular time, I'll always tell them, well, go to Instagram, scroll to that month. So if you're getting married in October, scroll to October and take a look, because it's going to give you a really good idea of what you have access to if you're trying to get it seasonally. Yes.
It's a great archive. I love that tip. What is it about Protea? Why are people so fascinated with them? They're sort of, some people call them Dr. Seuss plants or alien plants. They're just, I think, because only one or two major regions in the U.S. are where you could see them in the landscape, people don't understand how majestic these plants are in their native habitat or in the field, right? When they're just so they're just enormous, and they're so abundant with their blooms.
Well, they're probably some of the oldest plants on Earth. Basically, they somehow started back in Gondwanaland days, and so that's why you have your South African and your Australian parts of the family, because at one point in time, those continents were one, and they split, and so you have, your South African Proteas, pincushions, leucodendrons, and then Australia's your Banksia, your Waratahs, Isopogon, those sort of but I think too, it wasn't until probably the early 60s when Proteas were being brought to the United States and planted. And obviously, where we're located here in California, it's kind of considered a Mediterranean zone. And this is what these plants, the type of climate that they flourish in. So I think it's taken many, many years for us to really get the word out there. I mean, we've been working at it now probably for 25 years, and I think people are starting to become more familiar with them. And also, it's not a plant that you can just grow anywhere in the country.
Right.
As you said, it has to be kind of in California or Hawaii. And so people don't have access to them like they might have to other types of flowers. So I think that's kind of what makes them a little unique and special as far as different types of flowers.
I agree. I think they're really magical. And, I think my first exposure was probably sitting at a restaurant in Hawaii and just being hyper curious and saying, what is this? Like, I've never seen this flower before. This was maybe on my honeymoon, 40 years ago. And it's just exciting to see that the floral community has really embraced it as truly like American grown product. And if you want to be hyper local and it's, a time of year where you don't have a lot of options, you can still order from California and get just a huge selection of goodies. And I love that. I'm glad you mentioned the Protea store so people can check that out and order mixed bouquets and boxes and wreaths. I think you have on there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like the wreath on the cover of Sunset Magazine behind you, which I remember when that came out, a huge profile about you, and Mel was in that. It was just a wonderful celebration of all that you guys have accomplished.
Yeah, it was kind of almost like the start of really getting the word out there. So yeah, it's been a while, but what a great experience and a great ride it's been. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wish you huge success with the conference. I'm just sort of kicking myself that I can't figure out how to get down there, because you said it hasn't been in the U.S. for how long?
Since 2006, yes.
And it's usually every other year, is that right?
At one point it was every 2 years. I think they're actually trying to move it every 3 years. So it could be another 3 years before we see it. And so part of what we have to decide here in a couple of weeks is who's going to take on the next conference. Yeah. So
okay.
It's quite an undertaking.
I love it. What a great community. I'm so glad that you're part of the Slow Flowers community, and I just appreciate all the support you've brought to our all of our causes, and you and Mel. And I want to thank you for that. Have a great conference, and we'll be watching on social media so we can tag along.
A lot of pictures, yes. Okay. All right, well, thank you. Enjoy your week.
Okay, Diana, thanks so much. Bye-bye.